episode of Federico Talks Watches. Now today, I'm going to answer a bunch of questions you guys asked me on my Instagram. About once a month, I run a Q&A on my Instagram, so go follow me, link in the description below, and I'm going to answer a few of your questions. Now, thanks to everybody for submitting the questions. I got over 60 of them, and I obviously can't answer all of them, but I'm going to get through a few. Now, before we get started, of course, customary wristwatch check. Today, I'm wearing the Panerai Luminor Daylight Chronograph. I believe it's PAM 250. It's one of the pieces I picked up a little while ago, and I've got it on this beautiful distressed calf. Not a huge fan of the Luminor chronographs, but I got a great deal on it, and you know what? This piece really has grown on me. Doesn't get a ton of wrist time, but it's its turn in the rotation. Not that I have a formal rotation, but I haven't worn it in a while, so I figured I'd stick it on the wrist and take it around with me. Also, you may see the lighting is a little dim. I'm recording this in the middle of the evening, so apologize for that. But let's get right into the Q&A. Now, if you guys see me reading over here, I'm just reading the questions off of my screen. The first question is from Yannick Thibodeau, and he said, best vintage chronographs under 1500? Well, this is a tough one. Vintage chronos are kind of skyrocketing lately, particularly the ones in steel and above 34 millimeters, because, obviously anything above 34 is more wearable, and steel, people love the whole, military watch thing. It's really in fashion right now. So you can get some great deals on gold chronos, probably not for 1500. In the 1500 range, I'm not really going to talk about name brands, simply because those tend to be more expensive, and you got to look at some no-name brands. But anything with a Valjoux 7734 manual movement, or maybe a Landeron, is going to be in that price range. Something like maybe a Chronograph Suisse. Nice manual wind movement, should be well under 1500, but you remember, the cheaper you get it, the more work it's probably going to need. You should probably get these watches serviced. And servicing a Landeron's not actually cheap. That could easily run you $500-600. So budget that into any vintage chrono you buy. But yeah, I'd probably say a Chronograph Suisse is my top pick in that price range. Next, we have Jeff Mollick, who says, roughly how many Brooks Brothers polos do I own? Well, Jeff, I haven't actually counted them. I buy about 8 or 9 polos a year, but they last forever. So I've got a few that are 6 or 7 years old. I think in my closet right now, anywhere between 20 and 30. I usually wear the polos during the day, or a dress shirt if I have a client meeting, and I usually wear something a little bit more formal in the evenings if I go out to dinner. Greg Luzar, what do you think of the Longines Hydro Conquest? Is it worth the money? Keep up the good work. Well, Greg, thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoy the content. Now, the Longines Hydro Conquest is a tricky one. Longines is tricky in general. I've actually made a video called, I think Longines Confuses Me, or something along those range, right? I basically state that Longines makes so many watches in so many different price points that I just don't get what they're trying to do. Now, the Hydro Conquest, either the automatic or the quartz, is in their entry level. And honestly, I think entry level Longines is pretty awful value for money. I think the automatic Hydro Conquest runs about $1,100, and I've handled a few of them. I used to work for an AD that sold them, and to be honest with you, it feels like a $200 watch with the Longines name on it, and then at a 2824. Now, if you guys own a Longines, I think Longines is a great brand, but I particularly think the Hydro Conquest feels, for lack of a better word, crappy. I think you can do better for $1,000, especially in a used price point. Take a look, maybe it's some used Omega around 1500, maybe a Jean Richard, used Breitlings can be had for that. But yeah, I definitely give the Hydro Conquest a pass personally, my personal opinion. Next, we have Horology Grail, and he said, what is your take on the Rolex Explorer 2 16750 black dial? Well, the 40mm Explorer 2 has only been going up. It's been going up and up and up. I remember a year ago, 2 years ago, these pieces could be picked up for around 31, 32. A year ago, around 37, 38. And now we're well into the fours. I think the white dial is always going to be significantly more in demand than the black dial, simply because it's the only really off-dial Rolex sports model, apart from the Yacht Masters. But the subs, the Sea Dwellers, the GMT Masters, they all come black dial, and a white dial Rolex sports watch is pretty uncommon. So I think the white dial is always going to command a premium over the black, but I think the Explorer 2 in general, which did not get a lot of love previously, is a sleeper, and it's only going up. Now, do I think it's going to skyrocket to the roof? No, they made millions of these watches through the years. But it's definitely gathering some appreciation, and, if you can pick one up in the high threes or low fours, go for it, because as I said, it's only going up. Now we have a question from Ty Bod G92. Swatch Group tightening supplies of ETA movements, forcing brands to make in-house movements. What are my thoughts? Well, actually, Swatch Group is not tightening the leash on ETA. I know there was a whole big thing where they were going to, and the Swiss courts got involved because of the monopoly, and that's how Sellita was born, and Soprod, and all these other movement companies. But when the Swiss watch industry took a downturn, Swatch opened up the floodgates again and started delivering ETAs. So honestly, that's not a thing anymore. But it did force a lot of companies to start making their own movements. Cartier with the 1904 MC, Breitling with the B0 model. There's got to be a bunch of Panerais, a bunch of IWCs. What do I think? Listen, I love ETA. I love ETA. I'm not a huge fan of Sellita. People are going to chastise me in the comments. They say Sellita's made a newer machinery. I say bullshit. I don't believe it. The ETA factory is owned by Swatch Group. No one's got more money than Swatch Group. The newer machinery is better tolerances. Once again, bullshit. I think, there's a lot of QC issues with Sellita, so I say ETA all the way. But I also think a lot of these new innovations are awesome for the watch industry. New companies making new movements, that's a great investment, and ultimately it makes for some great competition. But I also think these new movements have a lot of QC issues. So do your research, because Swiss brands usually use their first customers as guinea pigs. You buy the new movement, it breaks within warranty, you send it back, they collect all the data, they then fix it, and they revise the movement down the line. So new customers of new movements are guinea pigs, but new in-house movements are also cool. So it's a double-edged sword. Oliver Ashford said, you can only have one watch for the rest of your life. Is it the Daytona or the Sky Dweller? Daytona. Don't even need to think about it. I'm not the biggest Rolex fanboy out there, but the Daytona is iconic. I love it. My personal choice would be a yellow gold Daytona Panda dial on a strap. That thing is sexy. I love the gold Daytonas. S. Menners 2000 asks, thoughts on Patina, charming or is it damage? Well, let's get one thing straight. Patina is definitely damage. Is it charming or not? Well, that's in the eye of the beholder. I think just like most aesthetic things, it's all about proportion and symmetry. The more symmetrical the patina, the more charming it tends to be. The more charming the color is, the more charming it tends to be. Patina is damage all around. It's usually water damage. But as I said, in the eye of the beholder, I think there's some really cool patina out there. A lot of patina is actually sun damage, not water damage. It all depends how evenly it develops. But yeah, patina can bring big money out there on watches, and it could also make watches worthless. So it really, really depends. Then lastly, we have Chip's World. I can't decide between an Omega Seamaster and a Tudor Black Bay. Which would you choose? Well, Chip, I'm guessing you're going to pick you're talking about the Omega SMP and the Black Bay, the standard one. Well, I love the Black Bay. I think it's got a fantastic look. I love the original red bezel, even though it comes in other variants. The new movement is solid, even though it's, personally, I find it a little ugly. I think it's a great value. But honestly, Seamaster all the way for this one. You get the ceramic bezel, You get the most comfortable bracelet in the business, in my humble opinion, especially at that price point. You get the coaxial movement, and Omega decorates those movements, even though they're machine decorated, they're not hand decorated, they decorate them fantastically. So I think you get the complete package, and the Omega has a bigger discount, but the Black Bay is cheaper to begin with. However, they can pretty much be had at the same price. And even though this one's a tough call, I'm going to go with the Omega. Anyway, guys, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed the content. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram if you want to participate in these Q&As. Link in the description below. And also, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help, and it ensures you don't miss any more content. And of course, check out Delray Watch Supply. That's delraywatch.com, my website, with some cool pre-owned watches for sale, along with some gear. Some great new stock is actually coming in a couple of days. So you guys are gonna want to take a look at that, because I'm getting a whole bunch of cool Rolexes, Omegas, a whole bunch of pretty new hot stock that you may not want to miss. Guys, thank you so much for watching another episode of Federico Talks Watches, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.